got the money, we've got the footing.
The amount of goodwill and generosity in this country is absolutely staggering.
1,316,000.
5,416,000.
13,600,000.
7 million.
Comic Relief has been running Red Nose Day since 1985, and it's raised nearly £1 billion to tackle poverty and social injustice through grants to many charities on the ground worldwide. During the Red Nose Day broadcast, celebrities appealed for your money, making the special Comic Relief promise that every penny donated by the public goes to good causes.
Every penny goes straight to those who need it.
What it is money that is going directly to help people.
That's right, because we're going to spend all the cash you give us really well.
This year's Red Nose Day raised over £100 million. The charity's latest accounts show it employs nearly 300 people with a total running cost of £17 million a year, of which £13 million goes on the wages bill, which has nearly doubled in 4 years. So how does it pay for all of that without taking any money from donations? Andrew Goodwill is a Comic Relief donor, and he wanted to find out. 4 years ago, he started looking in detail at their publicly available accounts and their website. When you watch Comic Relief, you'll hear celebrities say time and time again, every penny you donate will go to good causes. I mean, that's true, isn't it?
It's true, but it's misleading. It's a misleading statement by the omission of the fact that they have to raise these operating costs. So they invest.
And fair enough, because it does say on the Comic Relief website that not all of the money is given out immediately.
It does, but who's going to find it on the website? You've got a whole night of entertainment and they can't even find 20 seconds to tell you. They invest it in the highest yield possible so they can pay their operating costs.
We asked Comic Relief why their investment strategy is only on their website and why they don't explain during the Red Nose Day broadcasts that some of the donated money will be invested for several years, with profits being used to pay their operating costs. And they told us,
clearly it would not be possible to give all this information to the public every time Comic Relief communicates with them or asks for a donation. Any suggestion that Comic Relief has not been transparent in these matters is entirely unfounded.
Comic Relief's website and accounts show that the charity pays out the money you donate to other charities, and that these payments are often staged, sometimes over several years. That means at any one time, Comic Relief holds tens of millions of pounds of investments in the stock market. In 2009, Comic Relief was using these managed funds, which invest the money on the charity's behalf for the best return. Several of the funds publicly listed their main investments, and Andrew saw that some Comic Relief money was invested into questionable sectors like tobacco, alcohol, and arms. Comic Relief told us that
most grants are paid in instalments over a number of years so that we can be absolutely sure, year by year, that the money is being spent properly.
This, they said,
is accepted as the most professional and safe way to make grants.
But do they have to invest in those questionable areas? Well, the regulator of the sector, the Charity Commission, does allow charities to exclude certain types of investment if they fear it could alienate their supporters, providing there's no significant financial risk. And many other charities do invest in a way that involves some kind of ethical screening. Helen Wildsmith helps thousands of charities do exactly that. An ethical investment fund she manages has outperformed Comic Relief's portfolio for 3 years.
The range of common investment funds available today makes it very easy for charities to avoid the pitfalls and achieve the financial returns they need.
So ethically screening your funds is not necessarily going to make you less money?
It can definitely be a win-win. The academic evidence says that well-diversified, institutional, common investment funds will not underperform, and you're protecting your reputation and you're avoiding conflicting with your mission.
We've looked at the list of the top 20 best-known charities in the UK. Overwhelmingly, they have investment policies aimed at avoiding conflicts with their key overarching aims. Comic Relief stands out by saying the use of screening for environmental or ethical purposes is not practical. This means that some Comic Relief donations have been invested in a way that seems to contradict the core aims of the charity. Take young people and alcohol. Comic Relief says it's working to reduce alcohol misuse and minimise alcohol-related harm.
There's a pregnant woman digging, and I'm just sat here.
This year, it helped to launch a new counselling service for children from families with alcohol problems.
It just seemed obvious to try and then put some money into work that would do something about it.
But through its investment in managed funds, in 2009, Comic Relief had more than £300,000 invested in shares in the alcohol industry, the majority in Diageo. It manufactures dozens of alcoholic drinks. In the same year, Diageo was criticised by the House of Commons Health Select Committee for exploiting weaknesses in the regulation of alcohol advertising, especially in relation to children and young people.
My hope is that through this specialist and targeted care, these children will have the best possible start in life.
Comic Relief's funding partner in the treatment centre is the Royal Foundation, a charity that does screen its investments for alcohol manufacturers to avoid conflict with its charitable work. But this wasn't the only area where Comic Relief's investments seemed to conflict with its core mission.
Here you'll find there's a long list of all the different companies funds are investing donations in.
Aerospace and defence. So weapons.
Yeah, don't forget weapons manufacturers.
Comic Relief's mission statement also commits to helping people affected by conflict. But in 2009, through the managed funds, it had £630,000 invested in shares in BAE Systems, one of the world's leading weapons manufacturers. Arms companies are well known for generating good profits and paying shareholders, like pension funds, a high dividend. But Comic Relief is not a pension fund, so should profit be their only consideration? But there's a further issue. In 2009, the charity had even more money invested in shares in another industry which appears to contradict its core aims, and that is big tobacco.
TB is a highly infectious airborne disease that's rife in areas of poverty. It can be cured with antibiotics, yet every day it kills nearly 5,000 people.
Comic Relief appeals for money to fight tuberculosis. They've given over £300,000 to a charity called Target Tuberculosis. Target TB believes that smoking may be responsible for over 20% of TB cases worldwide. While raising funds for this, nearly £3 million of Comic Relief money was invested in shares in 3 different tobacco companies in 2009. Over £1 million was invested in British American Tobacco shares, a company that has come in for strong criticism from some well-known faces.
You haven't presented the business that I think is worthy of an investment. I'm sorry, but I'm out.
Investment dragon Duncan Bannatyne is currently an honorary trustee of Comic Relief and is well known for his financial nous. In 2008, he made this BBC documentary attacking British American Tobacco, accusing them of targeting African children.
I've come to Africa to look at a very successful British business. Not a business I would invest in, because its product, if used correctly, will kill up to half of its customers. Cigarettes.
Excuse me, can I ask you why you have shares in a tobacco company?
No.
Could I ask you why you have shares in a tobacco company? Do you care about the many people you kill?
By 2009, Duncan Bannatyne was a full trustee of Comic Relief at a time when it held investments in these 2 managed funds. Both funds had publicly available fact sheets, making it easy to spot that some of the Comic Relief money would have bought shares in British American Tobacco. I caught up with Duncan Bannatyne as he left a book signing to ask him what he thinks of Comic Relief's investments.
Were you aware of those indirect investments?
Nobody can be aware of that because when you put your money into a fund and the fund deals in it, you can't know what the fund's doing. It's called the blind trust, and there's no other way you can find out.
But like, have a look at this. This is publicly available.
Is it?
Yeah, and this is Artemis Fund and Invesco, and you can see here that they're investing in British American tobacco. Now that's 2009.
So where would you put the money?
Well, I wouldn't put donors' money into tobacco companies. You made a documentary about British American tobacco.
Guys, I'm sorry, this is really,
I did.
really
I
inappropriate.
did make the documentary.
But at the
It was
same
a very,
time,
very good documentary.
it was a very good documentary. But you can't stand over it, surely. You can't sanction it in these
No, of course I don't. I never have done.
So you don't agree with it?
Of course I don't.
Do you think they should invest ethically then? Do you think they should
Of course
change
they
their
should.
policy?
Of course they should.
So they should change their policy?
I don't know about changing the policy. They should invest, not in tobacco companies, but indirectly, as you've said a dozen times, sometimes it happens. Now, if we can find a way of not doing it indirectly, then we'll do it.
Experts have told us that it can be done. We found several ethical investment funds that screen out investments in weapons, alcohol and tobacco, which have outperformed Comic Relief's portfolio for 3 years.
There are specialist funds for charities that align all the things that they're trying to achieve, protecting their reputation, achieving their return.
Were you surprised that a charity as high profile as Comic Relief might be investing in this way?
They're risking their reputation, and a charity's reputation is very precious. If people who've been giving them money after watching the television next year think twice and don't give that money because they're concerned about their investment policy, then that could be argued to be a breach of fiduciary duty.
Comic Relief organises the Red Nose Day broadcasts every 2 years on the BBC. And through this unique platform, the charity has maintained a direct and emotional relationship with the British public.
Do it! Do it now! Don't wait! Give what you can, because you are Comic Relief! You are the reason for it!
Charity Commission guidance says that charities should take donors' views into account when making investment decisions. But Comic Relief won't tell us if they've ever asked their donors what they think about how it invests their money.
This is the DK Dance Crew. Last Red Nose Day, they raised hundreds of pounds for Comic Relief. So we asked their views on what the charity has done with some of the public's money.
At any one time, Comic Relief can have tens of millions invested in the stock market. They use something called managed funds. Would anyone like to guess as to what kind of companies that these funds in turn invest in? Yes.
There wouldn't be anything that maybe might go against the charity or what they're striving to do.
Where do you think Comic Relief was indirectly investing up to £3 million? Tobacco companies.
Disgusting. Disgusting.
How many of you are surprised by that piece of information?
A recent survey found that 74% of people agreed that large charities should adopt ethical investment policies which prohibit investment in activities that are contrary to their values. Comic Relief initially told us that because of their relatively low rates of return, their higher risk and lack of diversification, investing in ethically screened funds is not an option that is either legally available to Comic Relief, practical, or in the interests of its beneficiaries. So I asked the regulator, the Charity Commission, whether ethical investment is legally available to charities.
The core obligation of charities under charity law in the use of funds for investment is that they invest for maximum financial return on charitable funds. But it does allow for ethical investment policies.
So if a charity says that they have to get a maximum return and therefore they're not using an ethical investment policy, is that true?
If a charity says we need to invest for maximum financial return, that is right. If they go on to say we therefore can't have an ethical investment policy, that's wrong.
Panorama's investigation into Comic Relief's investments is based on the charity's accounts from 2007 to 2009. These accounts showed which funds the charity was investing in. We'd like to tell you what Comic Relief is currently investing in, but since 2009 they've changed the way they present their accounts, and it's now impossible for the public to know.
All the funds were listed, you could quite easily find out it was all public domain information. Now they don't do that anymore. There's no transparency at all, really.
A recent survey showed that 84% of people agreed that charities should be fully transparent about their investments. We've asked Comic Relief where it's been investing your money since 2009 and whether any of it is in shares in alcohol, arms or tobacco companies. But the charity refuses to tell us. But they're saying to us that takes up too much space in the trustees' report and that it is too time consuming to list the names of the funds.
They won't be in that many funds, and therefore they could be listed in their reporting accounts in the normal way.
Quite easily?
Quite easily.
From our point of view as a regulator, transparency is a key consideration. The obligations are a bit stronger on the larger charities than they are on the smaller charities. Any charity, if it landed up beginning to lose crucial support because of things it wasn't telling its supporters that they wanted to know, would soon need to reconsider it.
So as of this point, we don't exactly know where Comic Relief's money is. What do you think of that?
I think it's wrong. It's wrong. It's almost like that they won't admit that they are still putting into these funds.
Comic Relief, if they played it right, could actually have more donations. Because if they turned around to everyone, held their hands up and went, we were wrong, we are now going to screen to make sure we do it ethically, people might actually jump on the bandwagon and go, actually, okay, now they're an ethical charity.
Comic Relief declined to be interviewed for this programme. In a statement, they told us that their investment strategy, which has consistently delivered very strong returns, is kept under constant review and based on practical, legal and moral considerations. They also told us,
We've put the money into large managed funds, as many other leading charities and pension funds do. On balance, we believe this is the approach that will deliver the greatest benefits to the most vulnerable people. Comic Relief has received clear written assurances from the Charity Commission that our investment policy is both appropriate for the broad range of issues we support and within guidelines.
As a result of tonight's film, Comic Relief today admitted that it still has funds invested in tobacco, arms and alcohol companies, but announced that it would be reviewing its investment policy. For all the good work they do, the big charities are under more scrutiny than ever before. The question is, how can they best meet the expectations of the people who give them their money?
The British public will never want to stop giving. If they can be better informed about where their money is going, and if there's better regulation and more openness and transparency, then they can have confidence that it is all in a good cause.
Next on BBC One, Imagine pays tribute to Nobel Prize-winning writer Doris Lessing. Then our late film follows at 25 past midnight, a lavish adaptation of Somerset Maugham's The Painted Veil.